Okay, so it looks like there are more people coming in. Hi, I see Zineb, I see Lucy Song, I think that's not the right name, but Sisin Yu. Let me know if that's the right name that I should be, addressing you as. And then I also see Victor. Welcome everyone. If you want to, or if you're comfortable to turn on your camera, feel free to do that. I like a smaller setting, so it's a lot easier for me to just kind of address what you currently have as a challenge around figuring out your role right now as a designer. I love seeing faces. So, hey, good to see faces. But if you're not comfortable, that is perfectly fine. You can listen in. That's perfectly cool for me. All right, so I actually would love to maybe wait maybe another minute just to see if anybody else is gonna come in. But before that, since I have a couple of people here already, why don't you quickly introduce yourself, maybe around like 30 seconds or less, share a little bit about you and where you are right now in your journey. I'll pick someone to start. Lucy, start.
Yeah, hi, I'm Lucy. I'm currently a student at UC Berkeley. We don't have a design program, so I'm actually just majoring in cognitive science. And I guess I'm still like in the stage of doing internships and trying to like eventually get a full-time job as a UX designer.
Wonderful. Welcome, Lucy. Victor.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, so my name is Victor. I'm currently a product designer here in Nigeria. So I studied sociology and anthropology. So I have a year of experience. I started from the graphic design field. So right now I'm trying to explore opportunities in Europe.
Victor, hold on 1 second. Your sound is broken up a little bit. It's kind of hard to understand you. Can you maybe move your phone a little bit closer so that there's less background noises?
All right. Can you hear me? Is it better now?
Yes, it's better. So much better. Thank you.
All right. So I said, I'm Victor, and I'm a product designer here in Nigeria. So I have less than 1 year of experience. So I studied sociology and anthropology. I decided to explore product design when I was in school. So right now, I'm currently exploring opportunities in the international space, that's North America and Europe in general. Yeah, so that's just the introduction about myself.
Okay, wonderful. Welcome, Victor. I see there are more people coming in. Hussein, Janab, A,
Hi,
just A. All right, who wants to introduce yourself? 30 seconds. Janab?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
So great. Yes, my name is Zainab, and I'm a computer science student. And I recently just embarked into this journey of learning about UX and UI, and I spent the past couple of months practicing about my UI skills. I have a little bit of background about in coding, but I find myself like I'm more interested in design, and so this is why I'm making this switch to be a product designer for the next 5 years of my life. So that's it.
Okay. Welcome, Zineb. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yes,
Hussein, why don't you go next and share with us a bit about you, about 30
seconds. Hi. Sure. Hi, my name is Hussein. I'm originally from Pakistan, currently based in Hong Kong. Right now for me, it's 5 a.m. I especially woke up at 5 a.m. for this call. I am already a UX lead for a French sports retail company here in Hong Kong. For me, I'm not diving into UX, I'm already in UX, but I really wanted to learn, like, what are the more roles there, which I can learn about, like, I'm not intending to switch, but it's just a curiosity of learning more. That's what.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Welcome, Hussein. All right. I think there is A. A, can you hear us?
Hi, I'm Alan.
Alan, okay. It only says A over here, so I'm just gonna say A. Alan, welcome. How about you share a bit about you, about 30 seconds?
Well, I'm a graphic designer and I'm based across the border from you guys. I want to learn more about graphic design, especially about the current market and how to, develop network relationship as well as building the fundamental of skill set to advance into the next level.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alan. All right. I think we can go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen real quick because I do have a couple of slides I wanted to share with you guys. And let me find my slides. One second.
How do I change?
All right. Can you guys see my screen? Yeah? Okay, wonderful.
Yes.
Okay, cool. This session is around understanding like which design role is the best fit for you. So really it's going to be around a few different options, whether you want to be, becoming a designer in a company as an in-house designer, or do you want to go freelance, or do you want to actually work at an agency, or do you want to build your own agency? So these are the areas that we'll be talking about today, and we're going to share about the pros and cons of each of that design role. But before that, I'm not entirely sure if you are familiar with who I am. So my name is Arik Shajak. I am the co-founder and chief creative officer at Cikalovia. We are a digital technology agency here out of Chicago, primarily helping women-led brands with their business. So that's a little bit about me. What I'm going to share with you real quick before we get into the nitty-gritty of each of the designer role is that how do I get here? I've been through all of those areas in my journey, and I feel like there's a lot of different, pinpoint that you would also experience in your journey as a designer. I mean, it's not going to be a smooth sail. However, though, hopefully with at least these information and some of the things that I will be sharing with you, it gives you a better idea of like what is your journey could look like if you choose to do so, right? So in 2009, I've graduated from the art school. So I only got paid, honestly, $250 per month. Back then, I was living in Bali, Indonesia. And on the same year where I actually got my degree and worked for a company, I ended up quitting my job and went freelancing instead. So that was a big leap on my end. The following years, I ended up packing up my bag and moved from Bali to Chicago, started a new company with my husband. And honestly, I had no clue what I was getting myself into. And to be honest with you, my studio was a hot mess at that time because I did not know what I was really getting myself into. I did not know anything about business. I did not know how to manage anything around like projects and all that different things. So it was definitely quite a hot mess. And if you are looking into entering entrepreneurship, I would say like learn as much as you can first before you, try to take that big leap. However, there are tons of resources now out there online, and I feel like that could be your starting point, right? If you see yourself like, okay, in the next 5 or maybe 10 years after I got a couple of experiences from different companies, I would like to own my own studio or agency. I think you need to build up to that, but it's not always too late to get resources as much as you can around building a business at the early on, which is going to be fantastic for you if you have that already. Now, because I made a hot mess on my own journey, I ended up working for Sears Holding here in the US as a digital designer. So I ended up working for them for a couple of different years until I honestly felt that, I was at a two different roadway that I'm trying to figure out which one do I lean now. I was so comfortable being an in-house designer at Sears, but at another and I was also really excited that my studio finally growing. So I was really torn between a very stable job, right? And another one is not so stable because you can't really predict yet how you're going to get like consistent paycheck coming in every single month. So that was a very big leap. Again, I quit my job and I went back to running my studio with my husband. But because of that, I think there was a really big change that I did there because the first time I created the company with my husband, I did not know anything. But after that 3 years, I was learning a lot of different stuff, right? I was learning how to build a business. I was learning how to network. I was learning how to manage a project and continue working with clients in a very meaningful way, and in a sense that really building that relationship. So there's so much into it, and we were able to actually lead the studio and move it from studio into an agency model. So we had a chance to actually double the team and also double our revenue for the first time that year. So that was exciting for me. And then on 2019 until today, we are currently on a high growth. We were able to move up from 4 people to 10 and constantly double our revenues in 2019. So that's just like how I finally got to where I am today. I'm not saying that this is finally a place that I'm content to. I feel like when you are a designer, not only you are learning so much in your day-to-day activities and job as a designer, but you also constantly learning as a human being, right? Because you always want to shoot for, okay, I'm here now, what is next for me? Because I think you always want to challenge yourself as a designer, and that's the best way for you to grow in your career. All right, so before we get to this, which is on our role is the best fit for you, I'm curious, out of all of you here, what is your current role right now? Are you a freelancer? Are you an in-house? Are you working for an agency? Anybody else wanted to share? I know there's a few students here, but for those who are not a student, what type of designer are you right now?
I am a freelancer right now.
Carlos is a freelancer, okay? Anybody else?
I'm an in-house, yeah.
Who said that?
Oh, the same, yeah.
Hussein, okay. Hussein, you're an in-house designer?
Well, Alan here.
Yeah.
I'm currently a freelancer, but I want to transition back into either working in-house or at a studio or sort of that type of place.
Okay. Got it. And then how about anybody else? Is the rest of you guys students? Yeah, Victor.
Yeah, so I'm currently an in-house designer.
Okay, got it. Zanab?
Actually, I just embarked in the journey of UX design, so
Okay,
I'm just like learning, so I didn't really have
sounds
job.
good. I'll put you into the student bucket for now, if that's okay. All right, cool. And then I think I see someone else in here. Is there somebody else new coming? I can't find you. Okay, if you wanna like participate in the discussion, feel free to unmute yourself. But let's really look at this for now. Let's take a look at in-house, right? For those of you who are currently an in-house designer, what is the current pros and cons that you have as an in-house designer? Why don't we share that?
Okay,
Anyone?
can I go
I
first?
think.
Go ahead.
Sure, Victor, go ahead.
All right. So one of the major things I noticed with in-house design, especially for the kind of company I work for, so we are B2B, so it's not B2C. So most of the time, the clients, the businesses come to us just to help them execute their ideas. So most of the time, we don't have to carry out the research because the client has already done that on their part. And my fear is they might have done the research in a very wrong way. So we don't really go out to validate their problem. So all what we do is we collect the brief and we just execute it and we leave it out to them. So another disadvantage is there is no way to measure the impact of our design, because sometimes it's just one-time relationship. We might not see the client again. So there is no way to get valuable feedback for our next project. So those are the two major things that I've noticed so far. I don't know if that makes sense.
So from what I'm hearing is that as an in-house designer for you, it was harder to get some validation for a project. Is that correct? You just got a brief and then go do it. Is that right?
Very right.
Okay, so I'm gonna put that in the cons, okay? Fixed project brief. All right, do you have any pros? What do you like about being an in-house designer?
Okay. So I don't think I have any Pros? No, I don't think so. I
Okay.
don't. Yeah.
How about you, Hussein?
Well, I think I have a lot of pros for myself. I really love working in-house because then you
Okay.
have more control over the project that you work on, and it's more like, the project you're working is more like your baby, that you get to nurture throughout the time. You can see it
Mm-hmm.
evolve throughout the time, and it's not a one-off project. So it's not like, if you I'm not comparing it with agency, but if you do compare it with agency, like, a project keeps on hopping, right? So it doesn't stay with one agency throughout the time. It might stay for a longer time, but not like, forever, right? That's one thing. The other thing is that you get more context over the project you work on. So you understand the meaning behind it, why we are doing it from the very beginning. You understand the needs really well of the projects. You get more exposure to your users. Um, that's another thing. I think other pros would be you're not like you can the hierarchy system is very clean for you, so you understand, like, what are the processes you have to go through. That's another thing. And then the chain of communication is not very long, so the approval system or the rejection system, it happens very quick. Yeah,
Okay, I think this is
yeah,
good.
that's my pros.
There are a
Yeah.
few different areas that is a little bit on the the opposite from what Victor is experiencing. So I think
Yeah.
this is really interesting how you guys are, even though you both are in the in-house designer, you slightly have different
Mm.
experiences, and we're going to talk about that. So put cons over here. All right, so
For me,
I just
cons would
have a
be
question.
oh,
Okay.
yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, can Hussein, you can continue, Hussein. I'm sorry for the interruption. I will just answer my
No
question
worries.
after you finish. Okay.
Save your
Sure.
question for now, Zinab. So let's Hussein finish first. Go ahead, Hussein.
Yeah, sorry.
Cool.
No worries.
For me, cons would be, like, as a designer, sometimes you work in smaller teams in-house. Depends on what scale of company you work for. So for me, in my experience, my team is not too big. It's like a team of like 4 people, including me. So, like, the you get feedback from lesser people over your work. However, if you look at like agency, there are like a lot of designers you work with. It also depends on the scale of the agency, so you get more feedback. So yeah, that's what I wish was more. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's definitely see what we have here. In-house designer. I think being an in-house designer, it's still like a very broad term, right? In-house designer can have a big team, can have a small team. It really depends on like what type of company are you working for. If you go work for a startup company that maybe doesn't have a lot of funding just yet, and they just kicked off their first or second year of business, you're going to work with a very small team, probably no more than 20 people, right? And that is going to be, a collective of different people, not just designer, not just marketer. It could be coder, it could be business development, PR, everything. It's going to be a small team. And I don't think you're going to get a lot of feedback simply because you're going to be running around doing a lot of different things. When you work with the startups, you're going to be the 1% or maybe a group of 3 people. That could be potentially the size of your design team, but there's not much for you that you can get feedback, right? Because you're working in a very fast pace with a startup, and there's going to be a lot more cons, in my opinion. However, if you're looking for a really quick experience as a designer, go work for a startup as an in-house designer, because then you get a broader, different experience, because sometimes they would want to have a UI UX designer as a one person, so that you could explore how do you create user journey, user testing and everything, but also get to design everything and go to the field and do an actual test with your user. So there's like a really good pros in there as an in-house designer for a startup. Now, let's look at some of the experiences that Hussein already mentioned earlier. How many people is it in your team right now, Hussein?
For just designers, I think it's including me, it's for.
I'm sorry, is it 4?
Yeah, including me, it's 4. Yeah.
Okay, so 4 people, and that is a small team, right? For a lot of the small business companies, they have a very small team. And if you like a small team, then that's great. There's a lot of easy way to collaborate that way. But if you're looking for like more broader feedback, you're probably not going to get that, just like what Hussein already mentioned earlier. However, though, being an in-house designer, what really help you understand is that the collaboration part of it. If you love working with different people, being an in-house designer can be amazing to really harness your collaboration skill. Right, you're going to work with a lot of different people, you're going to work across different department in that company, because then you can understand, okay, the marketing team would like to do this, but the business team would want to do something else. How can you bridge that gap between what they want and become the solution, become the one who provide the solution for the company? So there's a really interesting responsibility and opportunity that you can learn as an in-house designer. But looking at the cons here, right? Hard to get user validation. That's almost feel like slightly the opposite of what Hussein is mentioning, which can be true depending on like what is the size of this company that you work for as an in-house designer. So if you go back to the example as working for a startup versus working for a bigger company that, let's say, company as the size of like Amazon or Sears, it was really hard to get user validation because you are in this particular team, a design team, which often don't really get to go out there to do a user validation, because that's not what we were meant to be, or more, but that's not what our responsibilities are. They dictated every single processes and system within the organization already, which in some case can be really good because you are following processes very clearly. But at the same time, you're not really getting the opportunity to go out there because such a strict rules have been applied into such bigger teams or like bigger companies. So understanding like, where do you like to work? Do you want to work with people that can be very collaborative and can also foster that relationship, and you can get what you need fast and not having a very long chain of communication like what Hussein mentioned? Then I would go for like a startup or any small businesses that doesn't have more than 50 people or 50 employees. That is a good size for you. However, though, if you want to have a more, how should I say this, like a more comprehensive group of team, like a design team, right? So for example, at Sears, when I was there are a lot of different design team. There are design team for email, there are design team for a website, there are design team for like the graphic design for environment design or the retail design, right? So there are a lot of different design team, and you can move from one design team to another depending on like what your professional goal going to look like throughout the year. So there's opportunity to grow to different team sections or department as you please. Well, not as you please, but at least as you grow into your role, you can have the opportunity to switch within the particular organization. So there's that. However, when you work with a very big company like Sears or Amazon, things like that, chain of communication is very long, right? It's gonna get very hard for you to get to the higher level of executives, or even if you want to find a certain answer to, let's say, you want to provide a user validation for a certain campaign. Good luck getting that approved within a week, right? It's not gonna happen. It's probably gonna happen maybe, I don't know, 2 months, 3 months, who knows, depending on the size of the company. Okay, so that's what I have for now in terms of like in-house designer. Anybody else have any question around being an in-house designer?
Yes, exactly. So my question was about the in-house designers, and actually, this is my first time I came across the term of an in-house designer. And
Okay.
can you just give me a really definition about what does exactly do the in-house designer?
In-house
And
designer. I'm sorry. Say that again.
yes, yes, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So in-house designer is really is if you work for a specific brand or organization and you become a designer for that particular brand. So this is not an agency, right? Excluding agencies, you're only working for one particular brand. So for example, let's say Target. Are you familiar with Target, Zineb?
Yes.
Okay, good. So say that you work for Target, right? So you become an in-house designer for Target. You could maybe apply for a UX position, or maybe you apply for the UI position, or maybe a graphic designer position, right? So say that you are going for a graphic design position. So maybe a lot of the time, what you will do is to work on any related design, whether it's promotional, or it could be like a mailer campaign or things like that, anything graphic design related for Target specifically, right? So all the brand guideline or colors or typography that you'll be using will be primarily based on the Target brand. So you only work with that particular brand. Now, with Target being a retail company, they have a lot of different collaboration with multiple brands. So sometimes you'll get to work with Target collaborating with X brand. So you have like two different brands to play around with, but you're primarily still going to be using the style guide for Target brand. Does that kind of help?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Yes.
You're very
Yes.
welcome.
Yes.
Any other question around in-house designer? We good? All right, so let's move on. I know we still have about half an hour, but anytime you feel you want to go back or have more questions, just let me know, you guys, okay? Freelance designers. I think, Carlos, you're a freelance designer, right? Share with us your pros and cons as a freelance designer.
Yes.
Can you hear us?
Pros, uh, like you choose the time and the effort you put to projects. It, uh, well, I'm not sure this is uh, this is like gone now for me, but I think in general it's a pro that you have about different type of projects you can work. Another pro is that you can learn a lot.
Anything else?
Yeah, no, I think that's all the pros for now.
Okay.
Cons,
Any
it's
cons?
well, yeah, like one of the major cons for me is that you mostly work alone. You do all you don't get the feedback that others can can give you. So it's like every design is like a long shot. Another con is like okay, what con? Uh, well, sometimes it's difficult to get clients, and although you can have different types of clients, maybe you don't like the type of work that your clients need, but
Okay.
and yeah, that's it, I think.
I added inconsistent income in there as well. Would you agree that also a cons?
Oh yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, if you don't, if you don't have like a system, yeah, it can be really inconvenient.
All right. I don't remember, aside from Carlos, anybody else is freelance here?
Alan,
right?
I have done some freelance work. Yeah, um, for cons, I still think is the type of project that you would get are like sometimes are really weird, but there are sometimes they're short too.
Okay. All right, I will add that in. Anything you wanted to add to pros, Alan?
Pros is you could find the project that you're passionate about or the company that you want to work on like a project with, so you can collaborate with them. Um, is another one I think is probably a good one is that you can tailor the like finding clients where the tailor your type of work that you are interested
Mm-hmm.
in the area that you want to do. I'm not sure like UX design or graphic design, whatever. It's like type of work that you want to create for clients.
Okay, so a project based on your interests or passion or client.
Right.
All right, cool. I agree with honestly most of these. Time flexibility as a freelance designer, I think that's definitely the biggest benefit, right? You can control your own time, be flexible as you see fit. For a lot of people, time can be, I mean, time flexibility or even like lifestyle flexibility in general is something that they strive for. So if you feel like that is a big thing for you as a designer, freelance designer, or being a freelance designer can be a good fit for you. However, though, also think about the cons, right? The cons of like working alone. Do you like working alone and not getting feedback from other designer? If you don't get feedback from other designer working as a freelancer, how else can you figure out a way to get feedback from different designers? Hard to get clients? It could be. There's always like different ways to find clients, in my opinion, but I don't think that's it's not necessarily a cons, to be honest. What more I would agree on would be the inconsistent income, right? So that's definitely very common for freelance designer. Lack of system is definitely big as well. Oftentimes, freelance designer, it doesn't seem like they are very, I mean, this is going to sound mean, but I don't mean it to be like that. But a lot of the time, freelance designer don't really take into an account of how to lead a specific project and, you know, really owning it, right? A lot of the time, you just wanted to get some work done and then be done with it and move on. So I think there's a very big opportunity there for you to really harness your skill as a freelance designer that have a very specific system so that you only target either specific niche or specific type of projects and only focus solely on that. There's a big power in there if you focus on a very specific niche, industry, or even like specific type of projects that you only deliver. Say that you are an illustrator, right? And you only do illustrator for books. Imagine how you can really establish yourself as the only freelance designer that do book covers. So there's like a big power if you are niching down you know, on your own that way. So you can have a specific pattern that you can choose how to market yourself, what type of like projects that you can control on your own. Even though you are a freelance designer, you still have the power to control what type of work do I really want to work on. I think, you know, you being a freelance designer, you have the power to create your own lifestyle as a designer. And I would say anything that is on the cons section over here, you can still work through that to make that into a pros. So create the opposite, right? Hard to get clients. Why is that? Is it because you are too saturated among all of the other designer? Then how can you stand out, right? Find a way so that you can stand out. Maybe by picking a niche, or maybe picking a very one particular service that you only offer. So that could be one way to do it. What else? So let me see. I think I hit on some of these cons already. I want to go back to the pros real quick over here. The learn as you go is also really good as a freelance designer, because oftentimes when you work with different type of client, you start understanding like what they do, what do the industry in their particular market really do, and you're starting to really learn a lot of things. And I think that's really the power as well as a freelance designer. However, though, sometimes like multiple projects that you can work on can be a challenge, especially if you don't have system. So say that you can only work, I'm just going to make up a number here. Say that you can only work on 2 book cover month, right? You better have a really good clients that can pay you a really good money for that 2 months, because the lack of like, inconsistent income would definitely going to put you out in the street if you don't have a system that you can really leverage as a designer, right? So you want to make sure that every single month, you know that you're going to get 2 projects at least, the very minimum. And then how are you going to manage that? If you happen to, maybe in a month, you get 5 clients instead of 2, and you can't handle more than 2, what would you do? Are you going to hire somebody else to work under you, or what is that going to look like? So I think creating a system, even though you are a freelance designer, having a set of system can be very beneficial. You might not a studio owner, you might not an agency owner, but a system regardless would help you along the way. So that would be my big advice on that side. Any question around being a freelance designer before we move on to the next one?
So I had my fair share of experiencing freelance as well, like, even while working as a full-time in-house. And I think like one of the pros would also be you have to wear multiple hats while working as a freelancer. So
Say that
I'll
again,
tell you
Jose.
you have to wear multiple hats while being a freelancer. So for example, one of my recent clients and also my current freelance client, she is working on like her personal website to create a brand for herself. And my role was more like, even though she came to me for UX purposes, but my role slowly dived into like brand consultant or stuff like that. So I think, which is not my forte, but then whatever I could help her out with my experience. I think that became more like, wearing multiple hats at the same time. Another thing I realized, okay, I guess some of you might disagree on that, but as a freelance client, I was making more money than I was making as an in-house. So I think, for example, like normally as an in-house, I had to work 40 hours a week, and I was investing 40 hours in a month on the same project, and I was making double the amount of money. I think it also depends on how you sell yourself, but yeah, like I think that's also one of the things.
Wonderful. I like that you mentioned wear multiple hats, right? That's definitely true. And I think this is where that, lack of system could also be a cons for some of you if you feel that there's just so many things to figure out because you are working alone. Everything is under you. You are the boss and nobody else is telling you what to do. But you need to be your own boss and also set that discipline for yourself, right? Set that boundaries for yourself and put system together so that you can harness the best or like basically the top pros that you can get out of being a freelancer. Hussein, when you mentioned that you could make more money than being in an in-house designer, that could definitely be true. When I was working first time as a designer in Bali, I remember, that $250 feel just so it's just so little, right? Because then when I start going freelancing, I start getting like, okay, my first month, I think it was like 500 per month. I was like, amazing. And then the next one, I got like $1,000 per month. I was like, okay, this is much more than I had before. But I honestly did not have the system in place. And I think that was my biggest mistake. I did not know how to, set boundaries for myself. Okay, what time do I need to wake up and get ready for work, right? For myself, that is, even though I can set my own time flexibility, you need to still be disciplined about your own time. When do you want to work? When do you want to reply to emails? And making sure that you communicate that to your clients so that they understand when they can expect things from you. So that was very big. And just like all of the other items around managing your invoices and then managing the products and then not products, the projects and all of those, that can overwhelm you very fast. So if you already spot some of the areas around being a freelancer right now that you feel, okay, this is just too much for me, figure out a way how you can systemize them and find either some sort of like software or anything that you can, utilize to help create some sort of system so that you feel confident going forward, finding more projects that you feel is very much passionate for yourself. Any other question around freelance designer? You guys good? Okay. Wonderful. Let's move on to the designer for an agency. I don't think anybody here is a designer for an agency, right? No? Okay. So let me share a couple of pros as designer for an agency. They're actually pretty similar to the in-house designer, to be honest. You'll get to work collaboratively. And then what you can also typically get is that you get to work with the big brand. Trying to think what else that you're going to get for being a designer for an agency. There's a continuous learning, in my opinion, as well. How do we spell continuous? Okay, I'll fix that later. And then opportunity to grow. Okay, and then some of the cons that I often hear, and I actually really familiar with, is that you work long hours, to be honest. Burnout with deadlines. Okay, this actually has a pretty good pay though as an agency. Okay, so here are a few that I actually familiar with around being a designer for an agency. Work collaboratively, right? Typically for an agency, there are multiple departments in there, depending on like what agency that you work for. So if you want to find an agency that, say, specifically in technology, typically in a technology and creative agency like what we have, we at least have the design and development team or departments. So there are like multiple teams that you will be communicating with or work with on a specific project. So not only that you're learning how to create a specific project for your own industry and skills and like pretty much your skill set, but you also be able to learn from a different team, how to maybe prepare your design for development, right? How to communicate what the creatives should look like for the development team. So there are like some collaborative work there that you can cultivate. And then you can also get to work with big brands typically. And then there are like this continuous learning that being provided by the agency because they want to support your professional and personal development. So say that you want, okay, I actually want to learn more about, I'm going to make up something, is augmented reality for digital design. They will provide all the resources that you need, whether it's like a courses or maybe it's a conference that you want to go to. They'll be able to provide that for you because they have the specific fund so that they can support your professional and personal development within the agency. So there's like a really good learning in there as well, and opportunities for you to grow into higher position as well. So say that you're starting off as a junior designer and then you're moving on into associate, and then you can go on into a senior level position, and then creative director, and then up and up and up, right? So there's like a lot of like opportunity to grow if that is something that you would want to do in your career. However, though, being a designer for an agency, you're going to work with a long hours. I often hear many of my friends who are designer for agency, they just got so burnt out. I mean, it's just so demanding because you're working with these big brands and oftentimes their deadlines are tight, and they are really like wanting things to move very, very fast. So that is, I feel like, the cons from being a designer for an agency. Any question about this one before we move on to the last part?
So before working as an in-house, I used to work on the for the agency side of the business.
Okay.
So like more like a creative lead, and less of directly working as a designer. So what my learning was that you get to work on like multiple projects, um, and you get to work on bigger brands. So for and also like on in-house, you're working on one particular product for a very long time. And I think if
Mm-hmm.
you, as a designer, want to grow your portfolio of brands or products or services, then I think agency side is pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, and Also, like with some of my friends who have worked on the agency side, like I think for them it was great to like when they were diving into their first role to work at for an agency, and then and then like moving in-house. So they got to learn about the processes and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like for different types of clients, while just instead of just sticking to one. So yeah, uh, that's what I would say.
Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah, I would say having work in an agency as well, they do have their own processes in place that you can, follow. And there's, I think what they really do very well is that they have such a very detailed processes in place that it really dictates like how you put your files, right? Where do you put your files? And then how do you structure a handoff to a client? Everything is like not almost templated. It's just like structured in a way that there would be there's no learning curve for you to make mistakes. I guess like everything is in there. You can just use their template or like make sure things are consistent because everybody else needs to also be on the same page. So I think they just want to make sure that everything is consistent and nothing is being misplaced or nothing is pretty much it's easier to find things at essence, in my opinion. I think I heard somebody else on mute earlier. Anybody wanted to add to this? No? We good? All right, let's move on. Last one is independent designer. So I made this a bit broad simply because independent designer could mean a lot of different things. When I put independent designer here, the difference between independent designer and freelance, in my opinion, is that you don't have a legal entity, right? I think freelancer, they don't really have a legal entity that they license in a sense, right? So if you, in a way, have license either your business or your entity in a sense, or you're like independent contractor, then you belong here. Or if you own your own studio or own your agency, you belong in this particular section. What I would also say when it comes to like freelance designer versus independent designer, a lot of the time client would see freelance designer as a way for them to get a project done very quickly and a very, how do I say this? Like not fast and cheap, although sometimes it could be, but in a sense, they don't want to deal with a long chain of communication like with an agency, right? They want to avoid paying an agency because number one, maybe they don't have a lot of budget to work with, and they just want to work directly with the designer themselves so that they can, work closely with them and provide that result very fast. However, though, on independent designer, you could also say a contractor or independent contractor designer, you could be some sort of like freelancer, but oftentimes you have a tied contract, right? So you could typically work with different companies for, let's say, a month, or you have a 6-month contract. So you could hop from like either one agency to another, or you could hop from one business or company to another company, which doesn't necessarily have to be an agency. So you could be an independent designer that way, but you still have to license yourself as an independent contractor. So that's that one. Or this could also be like for you, if you want to kind of create your own studio where you can eventually grow yourself as an agency, this will also be in here. Now, let me add in some of the pros here. But before I add that, I want to hear from you guys. If you were an independent designer, what do you think your life gonna look like? Wanted to see like what you have in mind so far.
I think like being an independent designer, it's like you can have the pros like a freelancer, like sometimes like the freedom of your time, but also
Yes.
like the well, the dependent. It depends on the type of project, but like you said, maybe if you have a contract for 6 months in a company,
Mm-hmm.
you can have like the part of the culture too from the company. I think that's really.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what I was going to say.
That's okay. I can add in a few things. If anybody else have anything else, feel free to jump in as I type in. Okay, what else? Let's see. What else, guys? Anything else that come to mind? Let's start with this. Okay. So as independent designer, you will have that time flexibility, right? Especially if you are the owner of your studio or agency, you can definitely control your own time and schedule, which is great. Some consistent income. Typically, if you already establish yourself as independent contractor or grow your own studio and agency, you in a sense already have some clients already in your book, right? So whether these people like your previous clients from being as a freelancer, or maybe they have worked with you because you maybe have worked with them as an in-house designer with them together and they happen to own a business or something, they're finally coming to you, or they may be like some of the clients that you have worked with for the previous agency. Now, whatever that is, I think in a sense, as an independent designer, you could create some consistent income. What does that typically look like? It typically looks like retainers, right? So you oftentimes would find a way to make your clients to consistently give you projects. So whether it looks like, okay, maybe every month they always need an email design, or maybe every month they always need a set of different social media templates or social media posts that they are posting, and that is important for them. Or maybe it's something else, whatever that is. If it can be repeated, and if their needs is every month, you'll need to spot that and ask them if they would like to join you as a retainer client instead of just like a one-off client. So that is a way for you to start building your own consistent income as an independent designer. Now, the other ways too is that if you work as an independent contractor, say that you hop from one organization or agency one to the other, what typically happen is that you would work with a certain, what do you call this, like a creative recruitment agency. What they do is that they typically take either freelancers or independent contractors so that they have a pool of talent that they can pull whenever their clients looking for specific talent. I don't know if you have one in your particular city, but I would look it up, look for creative or what did I say earlier? Creative recruitment agency. So look for that one. And if there is one in your city, add that in your Google search as well so that you can see what type of agency come up. And I would reach out to them immediately, right? So if you really want to find more work where you can have somebody else also add you into their pool of talent. I think that's a great way to build more clients, project, and more consistent income, because they typically already have these lists of clients coming to them. Hey, I need to find, a contractor for 2 weeks of project, or I have a, like team that right now going to be on maternity leave. I need someone to fill in for 3 months. Like, how does that going to look like for these business? They already have that in place, and they would typically search for talent from these creative agencies. So you can certainly use that one as an approach, or a way to expand your pool of opportunities for yourself. Let's see. And then the other things that you can also be getting from being an independent designer, you can work with multiple brands. So if you don't like being an in-house designer, being stuck with just one brand, I mean, that's pretty much how I felt back then. It's like, I don't really like being an in-house designer. I like to work with multiple brands because I think that helps me as a designer. I don't really get bored, right? The main reason why a lot of the in-house designer doing a lot of freelance work, because they just got so stuck in one brand. I mean, that's probably not for everybody's case, but a lot of the time, us creative, we love exploring different things, right? Even different brands. Like, how can we play with like colors aside from the colors that we are working in-house, or typography that we are already like, I'm so done with, let's say, script, and then you just want to explore something else. Like, you always want to build that curiosity, and I think that's gonna keep you very sharp in terms of like trends that are coming for design. Anything that can help you feel creative, because you're gonna need all of that creative juices flowing whenever you have a new challenges, regardless whatever type of role you have as a designer. So there's that one. And I think as an independent designer, you have the opportunity to work collaboratively or alone. It's really up to you, right? So if you choose to, you can grow your studio and have more people coming in as either team members or maybe partners for you, and then you can work collaboratively with them. Or if you want to just keep it to yourself, you can do that and just hire somebody else whenever there is a project that is out of your skill set. So there's always a different way to do it. And then you can always like pivot as well. If you feel like, okay, this doesn't work for me, you can always pivot anytime, right? So anytime you want and anytime that you feel makes total sense, then you can have that power to pivot yourself, really. And then on the con side of things, though, this is the big one. How do you find your own clients? I think that is the biggest thing. People always ask, like, where do you find clients? How do I get more clients and everything? That would be the biggest cons, in my opinion, becoming an independent designer. If you're not comfortable being a salesperson, this is going to be very hard for you. And if you're not comfortable marketing yourself, this is going to be very hard for you. So if you don't like doing any of those, this is probably not the best role for you. However, though, being a salesperson, being a marketing person, all of those you can learn, right? You can always learn that and be comfortable with it, because at the end of the day, we're all our own salesperson, right? You're the one who's going to market yourself. So like it or not, if you ended up becoming an independent designer, you need to own it. You need to learn how to sell. Sell. You need to learn how to sell. All right. And then you can also need to learn how to market yourself. There are multiple ways to do that. But on this particular matter, what I would do, always lean into your strength, whatever your strength is. If you feel that I love doing illustration, focus on illustration, and then figure out what type of illustration makes the most sense for you. What is your passion? Do you like, creating illustration for kids' book, or do you like creating illustration for, let's just say, music concert and posters and things like that? Try to dig deeper into that particular power that you have, like your interest, because when you have that interest very strongly and you market yourself as the one person who does X for this market, imagine how you're going to stood up among other designers who just say, yeah, I can do this, I can also do that, I can also do this. People will lean towards people who have a very particular skill set and they own a specific market. That's a big piece, because I think in the past, I made my mistakes as well. I would just say, I can design anything for anybody. When you talk to anybody, you don't talk to anyone really. right? So you need to make sure that when you can market yourself and when you're ready and be comfortable to sell yourself, tell them who you are, what do you specifically do, and for whom. Because then people are gonna remember you. I can just maybe make up something like, okay, yeah, Carlos does X for this particular person. And then when somebody looking for that particular service, they know who to call Carlos. So that's something I want to definitely share with you. And it's very powerful, to be honest. And the faster it is that you know which market or which lane you want to own, whether it's with your talent, with your passion, go for it. Because you'll find your own client who also respect you with that particular talent and with that particular expertise in that industry. You'll find them because you're not for everybody. Okay, I think that's all I have. Here are a few last things I want to leave you guys before we wrap up. Oh no, we already passed 3 minutes. I am so sorry, I did not see that. But if you can stay for a few more minutes, that will be wonderful. But if you have to go, I can totally understand. I can send you this recording later. Anyway, I'm gonna make this quick. All right, so before you choose one or two, again, you don't have to necessarily choose one. You can choose two if you want to juggle it. I don't recommend it, especially if you have kids. But if you can do it, go for it. Whatever you choose, though, ask yourself, where do you want to be in the next 5 years, right? What would success look for you as a designer? Remember, everybody's success looks different, and somebody else's success might not exactly the success that you envision for yourself. And then the third one, what kind of accomplishment would make you feel fulfilled? Okay. Ask yourself, if you were to work for somebody, let's say for an agency, does working with big brands make you feel fulfilled? Or does working with smaller startups make you feel fulfilled? Maybe with a nonprofit, does that make you feel fulfilled? So ask yourself that. And then the last one, what is your dream lifestyle? This is going to be a very big question for you to ask, because depending on like what is your lifestyle that you want to really achieve at the end is going to determine what kind of role will be a best fit for you. So if you don't like working alone, then freelance designer is not for you, definitely, right? Or maybe you just like hate creating systems and putting things together, and you just want to have a guidance and being handed to you and following that. Being an in-house designer or working at an agency would be a good fit for you. So what are all of these answers for you? All right. If you want to take a moment, either screenshot this, feel free to do that. All right. And that's all I have. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited that you are here and learning with me, and just like share some of your experiences as well. I hope this is helpful for you. Would love to definitely connect with you after this, so you can find me online either at Sikalofia or at my first name and last name, Harik Shajak, and we'll connect and stay in touch. I'm going to stop my share right now.
Thank you so much.
You are very welcome. All right. Anything else
Thanks
before
so
you
much,
guys
yeah.
leave?
Okay, so I kind of have a question, but I don't know if I can reach out to you later to ask the question.
Go ahead, Victor.
Okay, so the question is about people that, okay, let me just go straight to it. I'm currently thinking of switching, from, and I still don't know which path I should go. So the thing is, I really want to work with big tech companies, and that's because of the things I have interest in. I really have interest in the massive and emerging technology, and working as a freelancer will not give me that. And where I'm currently working in, will also not give me that. So another thing is, I also want to work on. I want to work as a freelancer because of income. I want to expand my income. So I really don't know how to do it. So that's the question I want to ask. So what would your advice be?
Hold on, Victor. I just wanted to let Alan know. Alan, I see you raise your hand. Let me get to you right after Victor, okay? All right, I will consider that as a yes. Victor, sorry, can you repeat your question? And can you get closer to your phone,
Okay.
if possible? Okay,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I asked that what would your advice be for someone that wants to change path in terms
Mm-hmm.
of switching from as a in-house designer to freelance designer.
Okay.
So I mentioned some of the trade-offs. For example, I really love to work on emerging and immersive technology, but as a freelancer, I won't be able to work on that. And as an in-house designer, I won't be able to work on that. It's only if I work with big tech companies. So, and another thing working with big tech companies is that I won't be able to work as a freelancer because I really want to expand my income. So, and I think working as a freelancer will give me the flexibility I need both on my plans and on my project. So, what would be advice for me in that kind of situation?
Okay. So if you want to switch from being an in-house designer to a freelancer, what I would say, make sure that you have some savings, right? This is going to be the savings that you need as your runway while you wait or while you try to create your own group of clients. Unless you already have clients now, then maybe you could technically like quit tomorrow and then roll with it. However, I don't recommend that. What I would recommend is that at least you have some saving that will save you, or you can at least use this money for a whole year, right? At least for a year, and see if that within that 1 year, can you come up with a plan so that you can get more clients and maybe create some sort of like system and have at least maybe about, I don't know, around 5 retainers if possible at all. And or at least if you can't find retainer, find where can you get like consistent projects. If you say you pick a platform like Upwork, right? Say that you are on Upwork and you consistently getting projects from Upwork, that's a good sign. So I would say slowly establishing yourself as a freelance designer. If you can do that on the side right now, that would be
Yes,
great.
or
And then when you're ready, you have that savings ready, and you can slowly get into being a freelancer, so that at least you have some stability, right, in terms of like money. You're not stressing out, hey, at least I have a whole year to figure out how I can market myself and then find a better system to get more clients. Does that help?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Victor. I'm going to pass it to Alan now. Hey, Alan, can you hear me?
yeah, I'm here. I'm actually trying to look for a way. I'm not sure which way is good strategized to pivot from freelancing to going to agencies.
Okay. It's going to be a little bit, it's going to be a very steep step, in my opinion, Alan. Typically, what you would want to do is like from a freelancer going into an owning a studio, right? And then go to an agency. Unless the way you're thinking could be slightly different, is that maybe you should start with like a smaller boutique agency. Maybe it's like 2 to 3 people to start. You can, but I would say like define what is an agency going to look like for you? Is it going to be just you on your own for now and then subcontracting people? Or is it going to be like you and then pulling a couple of different partners together? What does that look like? And I think making a move from freelancing into owning a business, whether it's a studio or agency, you need to have some system in place. So at least you know how to manage your project at the very minimum, right? Managing project is definitely going to be key. How to market yourself, as well as, you know, closing deals with clients. So if you are comfortable with all of those, I think there are a lot more resources on the internet about how do you get started with your agency. But in a sense, there's going to be a lot more, how should I say this? There's a lot more like things that you need to do as a business person. So you may no longer, or maybe you do very little design project, but the rest probably going to be handed off to your either contractors or any team member that you will have as part of your agency. And then your focus would a lot be, it will be a lot on making sure that you're going to get more clients, the business development side. So if you're ready for that, I think you can go ahead and create a plan. What is this going to look like for me? Define that first, and then slowly getting more resources online to kind of help you move along the way.
Just to follow up with that question, would it be helpful if, just say, I go into an agency and work at an agency for a while and learn the ropes within their business model and understand how they deal with client and how the project process are, like, how to process the project so that you can take it into your own business side?
You can definitely. I wouldn't copy thing exactly how other people do it, right? I think you will have your own process, definitely. So, you know, whatever you have learned, I would revise it. Use your either own language or the way you think how it could be improved on your own agency. Does that help, Ellen?
Yes, yeah, I think that helps. I just trying to get a sense of is if it's a big stepping stone between doing freelancing, jumping up to like having your own agency, because I know that is a big leap between like you're independent to a big
Yeah.
something like really big, right?
It is. But hey, I'm not going to say it's not possible. It is possible. That's what I'm going to say, right? What I would say before you make that big leap, prepare yourself. Do your own research and diligent work in terms of like, before I get to creating an agency, what are some of the homework I need to do? For me, what I did wrong is that I did not learn about anything around business. I did not learn about anything how to market myself, did not learn how to really like find client and closing deals or like, really selling my own expertise and design skills. So if you have that already in place and you are comfortable with that, by all means, you can start your company tomorrow and then, submit that for an LLC if you are in the US, or make sure it's being legalized. And then there you go, you have it. You just still need now to put system in place and then work towards getting more clients.
Oh, that's helpful. I just have a question regarding like freelancing and being an independent, like towards like owning your agency or studio. I just feel like there might be some sort of risk between like, right now you're doing freelancing, they're very limited to having a big portion of your um how you say, a big portion of your ability to go into opening a business. That's like a big risk between like not having so much to having so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It could be a lot, to be honest, and I would say it's even more responsibilities as the business owner because number one, you have that legalized, right? You have it in the back of your mind that this is everything that you do is now under your legal company. So it sounds not only it's more established, it just feel like you're gonna have to make sure that you're not creating risks, not just for yourself, but also for your clients. A lot of the time businesses would prefer to work with either studio and agency to avoid risks, right? So there's definitely a lot more things that we can talk about this. Maybe we can do another group session for this particular information, like how do you manage being a freelance designer or independent designer. If you guys like that particular topic, we can certainly create that for next month. But yeah, give me some feedback if you like this particular group session. You can leave a review on ADP if you like it, and we can create more group mentoring session together again. Sounds good?
Sounds cool.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, you guys, for joining
Yes.
in today.
Thank you for this informative session.
You're very welcome, Alan. Thank you, Alan and Victor. I'll see you around. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.